The one thing I've learnt in business is you have to be close to your customer. And for e-commerce, often they're running the other way and they're trying to make it very, very difficult for their customers to find them or get in contact with them or ask questions or otherwise. So they're sort of putting this big barrier up. If I was going to advise an e-commerce company on the one thing to do, I'd be saying make it easy for customers to speak to a person.
Welcome to the Customer Commerce Podcast, where technology's fast and biz is a blast.
In life and in business, time is precious. It's why customers stay or leave and why businesses succeed or fail. We're here to give a voice to everything that makes business, whether as a customer or as a CEO, easier and more rewarding. Welcome to the Customer Commerce Podcast. Let's dive in. Welcome, ladies and gents, to episode 26 of the Customer Commerce Podcast. In today's episode, we welcome Hunter Leonard, Chief Strategy Guy at Blue Frog Marketing. Hunter is a seasoned strategist, speaker, and author of 10 books, including Get Your Marketing Cooking and Red Giraffe. With over 2 decades of experience helping more than 500 clients achieve $2 billion in revenue growth, Hunter shares his insights on the biggest mistake business owners make when investing in marketing and how to avoid it. Stay tuned until the end, where Hunter has a special Christmas gift for our listeners that you will not want to miss out on. Enjoy. Welcome, Hunter Leonard, to the Customer Commerce Podcast. We know you very well, but for the listeners that don't or may not, Hunter is a full-time legend, first and foremost. He's also a marketing whiz, a chief strategist, a business consultant. You can add more to the list. We've known you for quite a few years and you work quite closely with Store Connect. An author.
I think the reason Jess is actually working for Store Connect.
Yes, I think so.
Oh, really?
I think Hunter introduced me to you or gave me you as an idea of someone to contact.
Oh my God. Well, then I owe you, Hunter.
You owe me nothing. Just enjoy.
But we also have music in common. You're a beautiful musician too.
It
But
is.
it's good to see you. How's it going?
Yeah, it's great. I'm having a really great week, and I'm here in the US actually with my wife Nicole, and we're having an awesome time together. So it's really good.
Nice.
Well, this episode is going to be a special one for our listeners because there's a lot of business owners that listen to the podcast, and always, I think every business owner is just always overwhelmed with the world of marketing. And that is your, what would you say? I'm trying not to swear. It takes a lot of
Specialty.
effort. It's your specialty. SHIT.
Yeah.
It's your specialty. I would love to know what's something that you see businesses, what are the mistakes, or what's one mistake that you see business owners make when jumping into the world of marketing? Let's say you've got a business owner that's like, cool, I'm willing to invest my time, energy, and money.
Yeah.
But what do you find that they miss in that?
Well, I can answer it generally and specifically if you like. And the first thing is we did this huge survey. We surveyed 1,200 businesses and we asked them 50 questions about marketing. So for a start, people are going to go, heck, that's 50 question survey. That must have been daunting. But we did it for a long period of time. And what we found is that the majority of business owners, and I don't want them to beat themselves up because not many business owners have necessarily gone and studied marketing. So we kind of approach it often with just this, marketing, let's talk to some customers, or let's run an ad, or let's have a social media post, or whatever. And that's how they view marketing as a topic. It's the things that you see, the ads, the social media posts, and those things. But really, marketing is a process. It's a process of building your understanding of your customers and the market that you want to operate in, whether that's mowing lawns or running a steel business or financial services or e-commerce or whatever. It doesn't really matter what market. You have to operate within the confines of a market, and there's other people operating that, your competitors. So you have to understand the customers, the competitors, and the market. And that probably defines the biggest mistake. What we found was that 80% of businesses started at the 4th step in a 5-step process. And a bit like baking a cake, Jess, or singing a song, you can't do that unless you do the preparation steps. You've got to know the chords.
Well, you are very, very, very good. But even then,
very, very good, or very, very lucky, or something. So
instant, yeah. It's
a bit of a gamble. So really what that means is most business owners start to speak, shout, send communication out into the world to a group of people that they don't really understand. So they're going to be talking messages that aren't necessarily going to reach the ears and the minds of the customer because they're not based on what the customer needs and wants. So that going from the basis of an assumption or this is what I want to say about myself is inferior to going and speaking to somebody who might be your ideal customer and saying, hey, what do you think about my product and service? How do you decide to buy a product or service that I might supply you? You know, when you go and buy a new car, what's your process? Do you look at ads? Do you go and ask a friend? Do you just stalk the local car yards and wander around till you see something shiny that you like? So you've got to understand those things. What do people need out of a car? Do they want a fast one, a safe one to carry the family? You know, you can pick any brand you like, and we can talk about. There's a whole different set of needs and wants that people have, and I think that's probably the biggest mistake that I've seen across those 1,200 businesses, because it's a common thing when you see that many surveys. Is pretty clear that would also tell you a lot about most small to medium enterprises around the world. Is that they're
Do people
speaking?
You know, that's interesting with that product and talking to clients. I mean, I just recently did this with our clients. I spent half an hour to 45 minutes. How many was it, Jess? About 30 of our clients or something?
What? Yeah.
So I did 30 half-hour calls.
Yeah.
And I just got on the phone as the CEO and said, hi, we haven't met in some cases because they'd spoken to my sales team.
Yeah.
And I just started asking them a series of questions, you know, and they were common questions. They were like, well, what do you like about Store Connect? What could we improve? If you could wave a magic wand and fix something in our service, what would it be?
Great
you know,
question.
How did you find out about us? If you were looking to replace us, what would you be searching for? You know, things like this.
Yeah.
And actually forced, like at gunpoint, although it wasn't that bad, actually. I jest. But got my entire company, so all 40 staff watched all 40 videos, right? That's an investment. That's 400 hours of staff time spent watching these videos, right?
Yeah.
Which was really, really interesting because now the staff understand what our customers want.
Yes. Yes.
But one of the things that I've run into as a challenge with Store Connect is someone asked me, who's your ideal customer? And I think as a small business, you know, you're speaking about the car thing. Factually, any car company could sell a car to any person if they could afford it. You know what I mean? Like all car buyers are in the market for a car, be it a jalopy, a mini, a truck. You know, like you could use any of those vehicles for what you needed to do. Is there a fear, do you think? And what stops people doing these surveys or finding their ideal customer profile to do the marketing is that they're pigeonholing themselves? And what do you say to that? Like if Store Connect, my company, started going, okay, we're going to go after distributors and multi-country brands, how do you allay the fears of that founder who's probably in a situation of, we're just going to make sales and I don't want to turn anyone away? Totally. How do you rationalize those two things where all of your marketing's focusing on this one customer type potentially, and you're going to lose all this other customer type? But is it that's just going to be so much better that it will make up for the gap? Or how do you approach that?
Yeah, totally. And look, it is tough though, Michael. You know, when you're a small business first starting out, and I did this myself when I first started my own marketing agency, I just took on every client that wanted some help.
It came through the door.
Yeah, and what I quickly realized is I was actually causing myself a lot more hassle than I would have if I'd been just a little bit more selective at the start. Because the fact was, I wasn't good enough to service every one of those clients because they had different needs. And I very quickly found out, well, very quickly, it's a relative term in geological timeframes, but after about 4 or 5 years of running my own business, I really understood that my absolute best client was someone who owned their own business that was of a certain size up to probably $20 million in sales, that had a team of maybe 15 to 20 people, but no marketing person inside the business. But they needed someone who could come in and just help them. And they, as long as they found the right person, they were just going to trust them to do that job and be the expert. And I have some beautiful friendships with my clients for 20 years now of exactly that definition. I could point out names of Matt and Lige, and, you know, all these people have been clients for so long, but there's also a lot of clients that haven't stayed with us because we weren't correctly weren't the right people for them to service them, or they might not have valued marketing in that way. So the value proposition didn't make. So whilst it can be really tough as a business, and it's not to say some businesses can't have multiple different types of clients, because it depends on the product, right? Somebody making coffee could have all sorts of people from 16 to 100 who like coffee, and they could be doing everything from legal work to admin to whatever.
Yeah, right.
To being on the tools. But for most businesses, it is worth the investment of time to find the customers that who value you the most, and also that you can service the best. Because the frustration, waste of time, the slow payment for customers who don't value, the wrong size business for you that you can't service well, it all costs more in time and effort and frustration and sleepless nights and all the other things that small business owners have if you don't just invest that time up front. Now, of course, that can also bring with it the challenge of maybe you need to fund your business for a bit longer while you get yourself going. So maybe you need some more resources, or maybe you need to charge some more money. But I recognise that the drive to get as many customers as possible so you can put bread and food on the table for your family can be competing against this idea of a slow course to finding the right people that you can serve. But it is worth it in the long term if you can fund the time. I've had
go deep before you go broad.
Yeah, I've had that many blood noses and sleepless nights from taking on the wrong customers that I know best to just take the time now and think.
And how does that change the marketing approach then? If you're able to pick an industry to go deep on, do you think that's actually going to negatively impact the long term of the company, or do you feel that going deep means that you become really, really good at that, and then you can naturally start going broad? From a marketing point of view, is it easy to take a deep marketing thing and then adapt it to other industries, or is it easier to go broad to begin with and then pick things out?
Yeah. The statistics kind of show that people at niche are more profitable.
Interesting.
And the thing with small to medium enterprise, it's margin and profit that you should be aiming for, not volume.
Yeah, right.
We have a client who's, in that $10 to $15 million bracket. At $10 million, he has a beautiful business with the right amount of staff. He makes good money. He can afford his life goals for his family. The business is doing what he needs to do. At $15 million, it is a mess.
Yeah, there's like there's a valley of death. And that happens in many different companies. Yeah.
Yeah. And those figures they're just for him, but
they're made up. Yeah. Some companies might be at 5 million mark or 20 million.
Exactly.
Mark.
Yeah. In fact, I'm helping somebody at the moment who runs a small-ish business, and she has gone from $500,000 in turnover to $1.5 million in turnover and no staff to 8 staff. She is in a world of pain. She was making money at $500,000. Life was good. She was able to have her own lifestyle. She could look after the kids. She could have afternoons off. She could go to school plays, blah, 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 blah. And at 1.5 million, she's got 8 staff. She's making no money. She's not sleeping. Her cash flow's trashed. And it's a world of hurt. So sometimes being smaller and more nimble and servicing less customers, depending on the business, can be better than trying to go after everyone and having to cut your prices because you haven't found the people that value you the most. Yeah.
Well, I guess that's where they ask for your help, because if you have someone that does want to do that, but, still wants to take care of the kids and have the weekends off, is there a formula or something that, when you sit down for, say, a consultation or you start working with a client, is there something that maybe you can share here that you give those clients to give some kind of direction?
Yeah. And we've used this model for 20 plus years and it works. So I'm a simple guy. If something works, I like to keep doing it.
I love simple.
And so, and the model is around this idea that I started with to say there are 5 steps. Now, yes, my model has 5 steps. You might see some marketer that says, well, there's 6 steps. I don't really care. Universal law of marketing is you have to understand the customer before you start promoting. And whatever model you want to call that, doesn't matter. I just happen to call mine R.A.P.I.D. It's an acronym. And there's 5 steps. And the idea of this is to take our clients in their businesses, to take them through this process of understanding that marketing is this idea. It's a process of, if you understand your customers and markets first, so research is the R, and I'll take you through each of them very briefly. Research is this taking the responsibility to understand your customers, your market, and your competitors. So you sort of collect some data on what's going on. And then the A stands for analyze, which is when you take all that information and you start to compare that to, well, what am I good at? What do I suck at? One of our superpowers is we are super fast. If a client sends me an email, they'll get answered within minutes, unless I'm in a meeting. It won't be 24 hours. It won't be 48 hours. It's 72 hours. I may as well give up. But there are other marketing agencies that might take 2 or 3 days to respond to a client communication. I prefer to just go bang, straight. Yes, I've got your message. I'm on it. You'll know by tomorrow at lunchtime. So that it's very clear. And that was all bred from the thing that all of my customers said. It was great to have somebody who responds. So I thought, right, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be fast. So, and that could be different what customers need for each different client. So the analyze step is really saying, well, I've collected all this information. Now, based on what customers need, what am I going to be really great at delivering? Am I going to be the fastest courier? Am I going to be the friendliest cafe owner? Am I going to be the safest car manufacturer? Am I going to be the smartest financial advisor? Whatever it is, there's always a thing that people stand for. So people think of Qantas, they think of the Australian way, they think of Volvo cars, they think of safe. Pick a brand. There's some connotation to that brand that people think of when that brand goes in the brain.
Yeah.
There's some really smart people in positioning, gurus of positioning, who people like Al Rees and Jack Trout, who wrote the 21 Immutable Laws of Marketing. People can look at these books and find this data. So with the analyze step, you then compare your strengths and weaknesses against what the market needs. And then the P stands for plan. So once you've got the data, you've worked out what you're good at, you can then decide, okay, this is what I want to be to my market. I want to be the fastest courier in town. I want to be the cleanest tradesperson in town. Everyone hates dirty trades that leave all their crap when they come and fix up electricity or mow your lawn. And you can find ways of what people don't like. Well, you can do the opposite, and then you become well known for doing that. So the plan step is, okay, now I'm putting a stake in the ground. This is my position in the marketplace. And this is all oriented toward the customer. We're talking about customer commerce here, right? It's all oriented towards, if you do this, you are always strengthening this potential relationship with customers, so that at this point, which is the third step, you've got all this data, you know what you want to do. Now you can start talking to customers because you can speak their language. If 90% of customers want you to deliver your products in full on time, which is a measure used in the steel industry, for example, then don't talk about price and discounts. Don't talk about, we've got red stuff. You talk about, we deliver in full on time, and people go, wow, that's a company that delivers in full on time. That's what I want. And I can give you a great example of a customer where we surveyed all the staff, and 100% of the staff said 100% of our customers only want us to be the cheapest. That was what the staff thought. So then we went and asked the customers, and guess what? Only 20% of the customers wanted the cheaper price.
Wow.
80% of the customers wanted delivery in full on time. And with a very small change in the behaviour of the sales staff in each of their branches, they added $50 million to their bottom line in 1 year. So whilst everyone listening to this podcast might not be a $500 million business, they might be $1 million business, the things are equal. So with very small, smart, strategic moves of understanding customers, you can make a really big difference to your margin in your business, to just enjoyment of running the business. Because I can tell you, dealing with customers and who you don't understand, so you're speaking the wrong language, well, we may as well be speaking, one person speaking English and the other person speaking Italian or whatever. It just doesn't gel.
So we're up to R.A.I.
and
R.A.P.
So I is implement. So once you understand customers, we all know there is literally tens of thousands of ways we can market our product. We can stand on the corner and spin a sign at people driving past in a car. We can sponsor the local footy club. We can run social media ads. We can have a website. We can, we can have promotions. We can have a retail store with point of sale. There's so many choices, but the I step driven by R, A, and P is much simpler for the business owner because they know what the customers need and want. They also know the behaviour of the customers because we've asked them, how do you buy a car? Customer says, well, I asked my mate. Okay, good. So it's a referral strategy. We're not going to run ads in the local paper because no one reads the local paper to buy cars these days.
Nice.
Yes, we might need to be on car sales, of course, but, the choice has become much simpler. So therefore, the investment in marketing is going to be more effective because you're driving it down a communication line where at the other end there's somebody who looks like a customer of yours who might just be looking at Facebook to purchase that particular product or service.
Yeah, marketing investment. There's that famous quote. What is it? I know that 50% of everything I spend on marketing is a waste of money. I just don't know which 50% it is.
Exactly. And the guy that said that was the guy that first started the idea of a general store and invented the price tag.
No.
Yes.
Wow.
So he was the guy. So all of it, and so this whole process actually can help you avoid that situation because you know,
or minimize it. Yeah,
or minimize it. Yeah, it's not a perfect world. You are going to waste money on marketing. I can tell you right now. Even 30 years into it, I still run programs that don't work. I mean, it's just like no one's got a crystal ball. But with the process that you've got, and the last step, which is the kicker, D stands for detect. The only reason it's a D is because R.A.P.I.D wasn't going to work if I used the word measure. So, hey, the acronym worked better. So I had to find one that sounded like measurement. So detect is measuring the marketing to see what works.
Right.
Because if you know what works and what doesn't work, then over time you can be constantly refining to be only doing things that work and definitely not doing things that don't work. So
that D or the measure thing, like what's that book? Sergio Zimmern or something, the End of Marketing as We Know It. That's a very famous book around. He brought in the idea that back in the 80s or whatever, that you should actually measure your marketing results, And I think he has examples there of being at Coca-Cola or one of the drink brands where they're like, no, we just need to do this $1 million ad because we need to win an award. It's like, no, we need to do the ad so we sell Coke. Is that, do we actually sell Coke if we do this ad? It's a very mind shift that you should measure.
Yeah. And we go a step further than that. We say to clients, if you can't work out before you do it how to measure it, then don't do it.
Yeah, right.
And a quick example, we worked with a real estate agency in Melbourne called Hocking Stewart. We worked with one of their franchise groups in the Bayside area. And they had gone for years just doing letterbox drops as their sort of standard protocol for marketing. And they had this FOMO, fear of missing out. Every other agent was doing letterbox drops, so we have to. On any given day, 5 agents' letterbox drops would land in your post.
I remember that.
If you didn't have, no junk mail.
No junk mail. Yep.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it on there because I like to see what was arriving. And we said to them, look, can we please? So I asked them the question. So have you ever had anyone bring one of those leaflets in saying, could you sell my home? And they said, no. And I said, so over 10 years, how much have you spent? And they said, I don't know, $600,000, $60,000 a year on letterbox drops. And I went, okay, can we try something different? And they went, it was like, no, we can't try something different. Please, can we try something different? I said, tell you what, give me 3 months. So we researched the local community and we said, well, which real estate agents do you know? Which ones do you like? Which ones don't you like? What would you like your local real estate agents to do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it turned out that really what we found was most people were members of clubs and they were struggling to raise money. So they said, look, if the local real estate agent would sponsor us, that would be really cool. And we'd probably use the agent that sponsored our kids' footy club.
Went, nice.
Okay, so why don't we do this way? Why don't we go to the clubs and say, hey, instead of giving you $500 to put our logo on a T-shirt or on the side of the football ground, we will give your club $500 every single time one of your members sells their house with our real estate agency. And if they happen to have an investment property, we'll give them $150 if they give us that property to manage. 6 months later, $600,000 in revenue for a $20,000 investment in sponsorship.
Wow.
Kid you not. It was perfectly measurable because each club had their own little leaflet that they gave to the member. The clubs became our promotional vehicle because they would promote in their newsletters and say, hey, we're partnered with Hocking Stewart. If you're going to sell your home, you've got to sell it anyway. And Hocking Stewart are as good as everyone. They're all nice guys. They're all the real estate agents in that area were good. There was a bunch of them, but it really gave them a measurable opportunity to sell, to know where their marketing was working. And plus, they didn't have to spend any money till they'd actually made the sale. So it was kind of switched it around the other way.
It's a win-win.
And I like to find things like that because maybe it's because I've got a Scottish grandfather, a bit like, we can make a penny go a million miles, but it's good to find stuff that doesn't cost a lot of money, because marketing doesn't have to cost tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yes, it can. Of course, it depends on the size of your business and how much you spend and blah, blah, blah. But I've seen companies spend $3 million on advertising and get no growth. And I go, well, why don't you donate $2 million to the Smith family or something? Let's spend $1 million on making it work or something. For me, it's all about using this model to work out what works for you. And it does take time. It takes some patience, but it's more of a scientific approach to working your marketing based on the best expert you can have, which is not me. It's your customer. Your customer is the best expert you can ever ask about what do they think about your product, what do they love about you, what do they hate about you. Michael, you asked all those questions were perfect. If I was going to write a survey for a customer, they're the 4 or 5 questions I'd ask, including the golden one, where did you hear about us? Because that just tells you exactly where you got to put your marketing next time. Because if lots of people tell you they've heard about you on Facebook, well, you better be investing in Facebook posts. But if no one tells you they've heard about you on Facebook, or they would never look at Facebook to choose, I don't know, a financial advisor, well, then what's the point of that financial advisor spending all this time
being on Facebook,
doing social posts? So it's really horses for courses. Find the thing that works for you. And it doesn't matter whether you've got $500 to invest as a guy running a local lawnmower franchise, or you've got $500,000 to invest as a brick and paving company. It's the same process. It can work for a $100,000 company or a $2 billion company, and we've proven it over 20 years that it does, as long as you've got the discipline to follow the process. A bit like baking bread. You can't bake great bread unless you've got the right ingredients and the right temperature in the oven, and probably a good sourdough starter if you're into that sort of stuff.
You're going to make me hungry.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
That was good.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
No
I think
worries.
we'll end it off with one more question. Michael, did you want to ask this, or shall I?
Go ahead.
Okay. So then I guess as a little summary for people to walk away with, Hunter, as a chief strategist in the world of marketing, what's the one actionable strategy that you think could have the biggest impact on e-commerce brands right now?
That is a great question, Jess. And I think the one thing I've learnt in business is you have to be close to your customer. And for e-commerce, often they're running the other way, and they're trying to make it very, very difficult for their customers to find them or get in contact with them or ask questions or otherwise. So they're sort of putting this big barrier up. So if I was going to advise an e-commerce company on the one thing to do, I'd be saying make it easy for customers to speak to a person. Make the resources and the investment so that they can actually speak to someone. Customers don't mind not having anyone when they're doing the transaction. They'll happily buy a pair of shoes or a new dress or a whatever, multi-tool online. But it's when that transaction doesn't go right. The delivery doesn't turn up. It turns up and it's broken. It's the wrong size. It's this or that, the other, whatever. The statistics and the research tell us that then they want to speak to a human. They don't want to talk to a chatbot. They don't want to talk to or look at the frequently asked questions for 3 hours to find out what the answer was. They just want to ring someone. So please just have a number, have a dedicated person or 2 people or 20 who are there to speak to people who need help. Because if you do that, I can guarantee you're going to make more profit. You're going to have lifetime loyalty for customers because you actually are doing something that no one else wants to do. So your competitors are not going to want to do it. So if you take that, what seems like maybe a more expensive path of dedicating staff to do that, it's really an investment in your future of having these people that say, hey, they, excuse the expression, gave a shit. they want
Classic Australian saying there.
They cared. They cared enough to actually want to pick up the phone and do that.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I'd say.
Beautiful. Hunter, thank you so much. For the listeners, we are going to put Hunter's details in the show notes so you can see his LinkedIn website. I think you've got an ebook or a book as well. I'll pop
Yeah, I've
that
got
in
some
there.
books. Happy to send it to any of your listeners for absolutely no charge if they want a copy of the ebook. I've got a couple.
See what I tell you, full-time legend. All right. Well, have a beautiful day, Hunter. Thank you again. And we might have to do this another time. Who knows?
No problem. Sounds good.
See you guys. Thanks for joining us today. We hope you had an awesome time, leaving you with ideas on how to improve your business and wow customers. If you'd like to leave a real customer's story, head to the link in our show notes and cuss away. Love the show? Please subscribe and leave a review because that enables us to help more businesses in building real relationships with customers and grow more rapidly. See you next time.